We have just this one life, so make it exciting. When people trust each other, processes are so much faster. You're quite a long time around. I remember that when I was in school, already Esprit existed. Yeah? So you're clearly an existing and big company. And at least in the past, it was the paradigm that bigger is better. The big companies, they were the known companies. They could buy a lot of advertisement, and they were strong. They were known by everyone, and by that, simply by size, they were successful. So what's the issue here? Isn't it still the same? Well, you get a general feeling when you look at the German companies like Daimler or ThyssenKrupp and so on, and they have hundreds of thousands of employees. And when you look at their value at the stock markets, and you compare that to, for example, Google. We're going to talk a lot about Google today. And they have some 60,000 something of employees, but they have a value of 10, 20, 30 times as much. So something seems to be wrong with this size makes it all. Yeah? And also, when you look at my profession and when you look at the general planning systems in companies, then you have got the idea, and seemingly it's just the idea that you can plan for everything. Yeah? What you can see here is the power plant Fukushima, and of course you all know what has gone wrong here. But the Japanese, for certain, are not stupid. But still, what could happen? Well, they thought, well, and of course they knew that they were in an area where you've got a lot of earthquakes. So they made this power plant earthquake safe. And they also knew that they were in an area, you can see it, that they're immediately in the sea. That has to be tsunami safe, because they knew that there were many tsunamis. So they made the walls so high that the tsunamis that were there in the past, they were not able to get over it. So everything's safe. But what they didn't think about was the black swan. What they didn't think about was that at the same time there could be a tsunami and an earthquake. But of course, what comes a tsunami from? It comes from an earthquake. What they didn't think of is that something that hasn't happened in the past can't also happen in the future. And this is what we call at the moment the VUCA world, that this happens at the same time, that several crises or also several opportunities might happen at the same time. And maybe that was also in the past, in the Dark Ages or in the Middle Ages, but at least after the Second World War, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, in general, we were in a phase of quite calm times, where by year, in average, everything grew, everything was dependable, everything was accountable and plannable, or at least it seemed plannable. But beginning with the 2000s, this accelerated in the other direction, that you can't count with things, that you can't plan things anymore that well, and that you can't predict the future so much just out of the past, as we all, and not only the Japanese, learned that. So what you still have to do and what you could do is that you plan and that you look at your risks and you try to forecast. But still, those obviously that are more able to adapt to change, they excel at the moment. And the general picture is that all the bigger companies that dominated the past 100 years are doing quite bad. Also General Electric, and in whatever company and whatever your sector you're looking at, those new starts, the upstarts, they are quite successful in the past 10 to 15 years in general, not just one sector, but those that have a tradition of 100 years and even plus, that they are at least in trouble. So there must be a general factor, there must be a general thing behind that, a general analysis why that is so, why they're in trouble, and why the others are so successful. We are not just talking about one company or just one sector. We are not just talking about IT companies. We are talking about a wide range of companies that today are growing quite quickly than it was thinkable in the past. And you, as one existing company are now in the challenge of switching to those methods to be as quick and as, we had the word already, as agile as those that are mastering the future and that are mastering the situations at the moment. So you have to combine all those established methods that you use, like, as I said, risk management and forecasting and planning and looking at the customer and designing for the future and so on and so forth, and being a lot closer to the customer, being a lot more flexible, a lot faster, a lot more witty than maybe you were in the past. Do you have good other ideas of some megatrends that are shaping the future at the moment? Yep. So what would you think? Some megatrends. What is worrying you, for example? Climate, climate. That's certainly a very important one, and that combined with sustainability. Yeah, so there's the urge of sustainability, and still people are electing the Greens here in Germany, but they are also electing SUVs when they drive their cars. But also this is slowly turning around. My neighbor that was driving a Porsche so far now has got at least a Porsche hybrid. Yeah, so he's improved a bit. Yeah, so sustainability, the climate. Yeah, and when you look through the German streets, that's a demographic change. Yeah, so it's for your customers as well, also as for your employees. Yeah? So then we already touched the global trade, and then we have globalization as a general thing, and this is also what makes it so ambiguous. We have globalization, but also some countries are fighting against this globalization, and we have got trade wars. Yeah? Then we have got I'd say, constant economic crisis until from 2008, 2009 on. Yeah, so it has never been solved. It's just calmed by this zero interest rates. And these zero interest rates is causing a lot of problems. And the next bigger crisis is just around the corner, probably. It could go on for 5 to 10 years, as it is today, but it doesn't have to. So you have to be prepared for that. This is also why this talk has been set in the general idea of not the micro, but the macro level, because I'm not talking about agility in the sense of Scrum as a method of IT, but as a mindset. Yeah? Here, agility is a mindset, is this general ability far from just one sector and one profession, the ability of being able to detect developments and trends and changes in the environment as fast as possible, faster than the competitors, and take an advantage from that. And that is, I think, something that is good for every company, probably for every individual. And so far, it could even make you more competitive. So, as you can see already now, disruption arrives suddenly, yes. But you can't say that you got surprised by that, because you know that there will happen something. And there are those megatrends around, and they can be combined. You can have got this black swan, you can have the pest and the cholera at the same time. Yeah? So better you have got some antibiotics stocked. Yeah? And for the organization, that means you have to rebuild organizations. When everything was so plannable, you could exactly say, well, we built this plan, we need 3,000 employees, and we'll have got the output of, let's say, 10,000 suits in a week or something like that. That's impossible, I'd say, today. Yeah? We discussed this in the breakout session afterwards, but I'd say it's impossible. So those that are faster in adapting to change, ideally, when you know the weather forecast will show that the September is hotter than expected, that you can produce some more bath suits for those that might go to the swimming pools even until early October. Or when you know that wintertime is coming earlier, that you can produce some more scarves for that. And those that can do that are those that act as small companies, even though that are the big ones. Yeah, so the paradigm, as you can see here, the paradigm in the past was that the big companies were eating the smaller ones. Today, it's the other way around. You see the bigger companies struggling because they are not good in any niche. Yeah, so with the smaller ones, they are perfect in their niches. But the bigger ones, they are generalists. And so the size that helped them in the past doesn't help them today in their niches. So they fight in every niche, and in every niche, the small company in the niche is better than the generalists. So some companies are good at this because they are big, but they are split into smaller parts that can then be competitive even in the niches. And one perfect example for simplicity here, again, would be Google. Yeah, so, of course, you use it as a search engine, but look at it, you also probably have it on your phone if you don't have an iPhone. Yeah? Or when you want to watch a movie in the internet, you probably go to YouTube. Yeah? So different companies or different niches, different markets, but still one company. But it's not behaving as one big company, it's behaving like a swarm of companies. So to sum it up, and to quote Seth Godin here, small is the new big. And the big challenge for existing companies is then how to become such a competitive small company being a big company already. Yeah? And there, a lot of companies struggle with this challenge, with this duality. On the one hand, they still have silos, they have red tape, and so on and so forth. And what they know is they need a strong vision, a convincing vision, an inspiring vision. They need a culture change, and they have to become agile. So question then is, how is it with you? Yeah? What's the inside view of Esprit? What do you think? How far are you already? Yeah? So can I see it with your thumbs? Yes, so thumb up is we are already in the right direction. Here, that is, yeah. This is not in it. Yeah? So this is not today. This is not in it today. Yeah. So, yeah, you're in average it's like that. In average it's like that. Yeah? So that's already good. And what you could do then to come up with good ideas is not just asking the customers. Sometimes companies are too customer-oriented. The new way, especially companies that are agile, they put not customers first, but employees first. Because the good ideas, be it for management or be it for the product, comes from the employees. And very often the employees in the breadth, the employees have the good ideas, what customers want, not only today, but in future. And that's exactly what Henry Ford, in his infamous quote, meant here. Yeah, so you just don't have just to serve what the customer says, what he wants, but what he really wants. Yeah, so a perfect modern example for that would be the iPad. Yeah, so the iPad basically was a laptop where the typo was taken away. Yeah, if in the 2005 you would have a new laptop and I would take away your keys, you would slap me. Yeah, but basically that's it. But when you think about it, when you ever tried to be on your couch and work on your laptop, it was awful because it always fell down. Yeah, so that was perfect. So just watch the customers or watch your employees or watch your colleagues, and then you see maybe where they struggle, where they have processes that don't work well, or where they could do even better. And then just tell them. Yeah. So the good companies that are agile, they're very, very good at customer orientation, but in that sense, with that philosophy, not just doing what the customer tells you what he wants, but looking quite closely at the customer and then guessing what he might want in future and getting this guess as right as possible. So the idea then is to leave that number crunching and get a lot more to smaller, educated guesses, and to come to not only scenario planning, but to the ability to react a lot faster than you did in the past. And I give you some examples of that, where that also in this case includes speed. Yeah? So you have to get a lot faster when you want to become agile. Yeah? Try to, I don't know how much you know about mountain biking, but if you want to do that in a very secure and slow way, then it's a lot more certain that you will fall down than when you do that very swiftly. Yeah? And think of other animals. I will show you some examples that will prove, I hope, that agility is not a new concept, but it's quite a part of nature already. Yeah, so penguins are very agile, otherwise they wouldn't survive. Think of them walking around in winter storms so that they're warming themselves like a gyros. Yeah, so or here, what's agile about them? They're also testing. Yeah, so it's a kind of when they're sitting there thinking about jumping the water. They're also doing trial and error, and so far that all the penguins that are sitting there are waiting for the first penguin to jump and seeing if he gets eaten by a sea lion. If yes, no one jumps afterwards. Yeah? If he is alive, yeah, if he dives and then comes up alive, then the others jump in afterwards. Yeah? So what I'm saying is, with taking more risks, I'm not saying that you bet the company, but I'm saying that agility also means guessing what the customer wants, making small guesses, small bets on that, learning as fast as possible, yeah, and then being or getting a lot better in understanding, analyzing this information, so that you can predict a lot better, better and better and better, incrementally, so that you speed up and get your guesses right. And if you're really, really great at that, you can take even those risks. Yeah, so. That you can compete with the biggest animal on the market and you don't have to fear it anymore. So, having spoken about agility all the time, now I have to be a professor sometimes, we have to define it. So, what is agility? Our understanding of it should be, it is intelligently, so you have to use your head rapidly, with speed and effectively. That means getting the processes right, getting the guesses of the customer wants and needs right, and being able to adapt to those changing things, to these changing processes, better than the competition. And this last thing I can only stress. You don't have to be perfect at that, and you don't have to get perfect fast, but you have to do it better than the competition. There is this small story of those two guys that get lost with a safari in Africa, where they get chased by lions. You might have heard of that. And the one of them then is tying his shoes, and the one of them says, "Well, why are you tying your shoes? The lions will catch you anyway." And he says, "No, I don't have to be faster than a lion. I just have to be faster than you." Yeah. So, yeah. You don't have to be perfect. So agility doesn't mean that you strive for perfection. It means that you have to also look at the competition and be better than just the competition. And for management as well as product design, it means done is better than perfect. Yeah? Perfect takes you so long. Yeah? Perfect is 3 years, 5 years. Yeah? But then you are dead before you're perfect. Yeah? So, what are success factors? 1, chances instead of threats. See the opportunities. You need consistent leadership by example. A lot of communication, a lot more communication maybe as in the old days. Then also think that everyone has a self-interest, and ignoring that would be wrong. Yeah? So some people might not like agile methods because there's more light on them. Yeah, understand that, but don't accept that. Convince them. People have to be committed for that, especially in a change anyway. But when you change the whole management system and the mindset, then this goes even deeper. Then work on it every day. You know that sometimes when you change something, it first gets worse before it gets better. So there is this valley. You have to get through this valley. Yeah? And make small steps, improve in small steps. That's better than trying to make this one big step, because when you fail with this one big step, then the method is burned. Better introduce it in small steps and see the quick wins, see the successes of that. Yeah, and then again, try to take good examples from other parts. Yeah, so you know agility from border collies, maybe from your dogs, but this is exactly what we have to do. Yeah, we can train that. It's trainable. Agility is trainable. Yeah, so it's being intelligent and being quick and easy ourselves. And that means even if you're not top management, read more newspapers, read more magazines, get broader interest so that you catch those megatrends, that you catch those trends and that you understand everything. Yeah, yeah, maybe make this an idea. What would I do if I was CEO, even if you are not? Yeah. So maybe you one time will get one. And don't do it just like the eagle as a single player, do it as a team player. Yeah, you have to be quick, but you also have to be intelligent, mind that. And do it as a swarm. And the swarms are not so stupid, because when a predator comes here, then the whole swarm turns left, and the predator eventually gets shocked by that and turns away. Yeah, and think of that one also, be intelligent, be clever, open your eyes and try to see also in the dark. I give you one further example from all the animals that I found perfect for showing what agility means, and to prove also that this concept is not absolutely new. And that is the case of the octopus. And if you also look at the timeline, you can see that the octopus is solving the riddle in 5 minutes or less. And this octopus is in a pool with a crab. And the crab is protected, yeah, in a protected market, so to say, in a jar, in a glass of jar, with a sorry? Yeah, with a lid. Yeah, there is a closed lid on it. Yeah, and see what the octopus does. Yeah, so the octopus is thinking about it, and what I love about it is the 8 arms of the octopus. So the octopus is not only thinking with the head as the metaphor maybe for the top management, but see what he does. All parts, all employees, all arms are testing the jar and the glass and the lid, and trying to find the way into it, finding the way how to solve that. Yeah, and still the crab maybe feels protected. We don't really know. Maybe he already gets nervous, but still, so nothing happens. Nothing happens. We are in the 2nd minute already, but there you can see the arms already testing the lid. Yeah, so they're trying to turn it. And then, of course, it's not, there's not a study in engineering for octopuses, but somehow he is doing trial and error. Yeah, so he somehow has figured out that the lid is a weak point of this whole system. So he is sitting on it and trying to go back and forth. And eventually it makes, and then it's open. And 10 seconds later, there's no crab anymore, and the whole octopus is now in this niche. Yeah? And when you don't find your bookstore in your small town anymore, then you see what happened with this crab that was taken by Amazon, for example. Yeah? And what I also want to tell you with this is the urgency. There is no safe market. There's no safe niche anymore. Yeah, so better be the octopus than the crab. Don't think that you are protected by anything. Better be the attacker than the defendant. Something positive again, something positive about what's good about agility. It's according to our psychology, it's according to our wants and needs. Simply one reason, because it gives us freedom. Before that, you got paid for doing what your boss told you. Now, you can do what you want. And you have to find a good reason to tell it to your boss. Yeah, so that was Alexander the Great, and he was fighting the Persians. And one of the big differences that were success factors, one would say today, was the Persians. They had mercenaries. They had 100,000 plus mercenaries, an army of 100,000 plus, and the Greeks with just 30,000 something. But the Greeks were fighting for a purpose, and the Persian mercenaries were fighting for money. And so Alexander was able to motivate his fighters. They had a purpose, and eventually they won. The same then later was going on with Napoleon. Yeah, so Napoleon was fighting the Prussians, they were fighting the Austrians, they were fighting the British, and they were fighting all three of them at the same time, and they were still winning. What was the difference? They were fighting for a nation. They were fighting for themselves. And that was why Napoleon was so able to instruct them and to lead them in a fight that was so much more effective than the drilled soldiers of the Prussians, for example. So from that you can draw what agility also needs absolutely, and that is the sense of purpose that needs an overarching idea. So Apple and Pixar, what they have in common is of course Steve Jobs. Yeah? Steve Jobs, by God, is not an ideal example for leadership, but he is a guru for management. He invented a lot of good things for management. And what he did here was small creative teams, and what is interesting here, and I don't know how much you do that already, small creative teams means in those teams where everyone was in there that was necessary. That means also lawyers, production designers, IT people that in a normal process would be stepwise, would be one after the other. They were all put into one team at the same time, so that if there was any objection, it was uttered immediately and not 9 months later. Yeah. So then those people, they were not only specialists, they were generalists. They were taught also in business, because they should not just develop ideas, they should develop products, even business models. Yeah? So you shouldn't just come up with an iPad, you should come up with the idea what an iPad could be used for. Yeah? So to make it more sellable. And he organized serendipity, and I understood that he already started with that too. That means he organized that people just bump into each other, seemingly just by chance, but by that, people talk to each other that normally wouldn't have talked and come up with ideas normally you wouldn't have had. And that makes a company really rich, as again, management-wise, as product-wise. And the principle, basic principles, so that this works is every one of you is an expert. Every one of you is a great part of Esprit, so everyone should speak up. Be it someone working for the company just for 1 year, or be it the CEO. Then there are no stupid ideas, maybe some ideas where the time not yet has come, but there are no stupid ideas. And cooperate also with the outside world. Get your ideas from the outside world as much as possible. Next one, that is where the product of this company is used for. And that is an old company, and again a proof that the principle of agility also was already used by companies 70 years ago, and that is Gore-Tex. Yeah? So you probably have used that for your fashion already. And Gore-Tex was founded by an engineer, not a management professional. And this engineer was working for DuPont, and he had this original idea for DuPont, for Gore-Tex at DuPont. And he got to his boss and said, well, boss, I've got this idea. And guess what his boss said? You're not supposed to have ideas, you are supposed to work. Yeah? And then he said, okay, I'm going to found my own company, and I don't want to have any manager that is like my boss. People that are working for me should be like me. Yeah? And this is why he came up with the idea of entrepreneurship and of self-assignment. That means no one at Gore gets a job. You have to take your job. And you can self-assign yourself to a team that is working on a product, but they have to accept you. That's the point. There's the edge. Yeah, so that's no kindergarten. Yeah, so you really have to be good to be accepted by a team, but you have to assign yourself to a team to develop a certain product. That is how Gore works. So it's a meritocracy. Those that are successful, they get ranks. Yeah? And they get not ranks by stripes on the shoulder flaps. They get this because they are known to be successful. People want to work with people that are successful because they make them successful too. And one last thing I found very innovative with Gore, he already realized, not being a psychologist, that people like to work in groups that are not anonymous, when people know each other. And he said, well, however big we grow, no unit should be bigger than 200 people. Because 200 people, that's its typical village where everyone knows everyone. And there's one principle behind that that's put in a very small word, and that's trust. Yeah? People trust each other. When people trust each other, processes are so much faster. So you need trust. Yeah? So this is what we can learn from Gore. Yeah? Good catchphrases: if you build fences, you get sheep. Leaders instead of bosses, commitments instead of assignments, big yet personal, focused but no core business. And also the other side of the coin is then the leadership. The leaders have to create the conditions that you feel safe to do so. And the leaders have to know that you can't press people into change, but you can set the condition, you can set the stage so that people want to change and that people dare to change. And therefore, talking about leadership, also Google did something in a way that no other company that I know did it so deeply and so consequently. They researched what is good leadership for them, and I think this also works for all companies. This is a general finding that we have here, and they developed 10, let's say, rules, golden rules for leaders, then, so that all this transition will work. Because they found that, in general, even at Google, leaders too often failed at making the transition. They failed because they concentrated too much on their technical knowledge and not so much on their leadership qualification. They failed too much in communicating. And they failed to have contact with their employees. And this is why at the first priority in those 10 rules, it's ordered. Yeah? And the first priority was be a good coach. And that's a major shift from a manager that is telling someone else what to do to coaching, meaning helping someone else to achieve their goals. That is the coaching approach. Be a good coach. This is what Google employees want from their leaders, and I think you can sympathize with that. Then second, empower your team, don't micromanage. Yeah? The more you have got technical know-how, the greater the risk that you micromanage. Express interest in team members' success, develop their careers, be productive and results-oriented. 5, be a good communicator. Work on your communication skills if you are not good at it already. Yeah? As said, help them with your career development, even if they might overtake you. It's always good to have friends in high places. Have a clear vision, even as a middle manager or as a first-line manager. Even those should share the vision and develop a vision for their part as well. And have key technical skills so that you can advise, collaborate across whole Google, and be a strong decision maker. Question is, can you teach an old dog, that was the old dog, yeah? Can you teach an old dog a new trick? And here again, the answer is yes. Yeah? So German company Fissmann, 100 years old approximately, very, very old kind of technology. They're burning fossil energy to produce warmth. Simply, they're building radiators. But then they had to build a smart interface because you wanted to have it warm 10 minutes before you arrive home. So they had to develop an app. and they had to become agile in that part. And they did, as you can see. Or ING, a bank that wanted to become the first German agile bank. They decided so in 2015, made the shift, and already 1.5 years later, they saw the positive numbers coming in. Improved time to market, boosted employee engagement, and increased productivity. So to put it in a nutshell, what we've seen is we need a strong vision. We need a lot more transparency in management and in all processes. Put employees first and they will pay back. Develop innovation by entrepreneurship, by putting the skin in the game from the employees that pay back with their effort and their ideas. Empower your employees and give them the freedom to self-assign to the interesting projects they want to develop. And in a picture, you have to ride the wave. If you're too much ahead of the wave, you get crushed by the wave. But if you're behind the wave, it's boring. And we have just this one life, so make it exciting. So I hope I excited you a bit about agility and the agile mindset so that you will embrace it in future. And I'm quite sure that in 30 years, my children will also wear Esprit. Thank you.